I said be quiet. Hello, welcome. I'm so excited for today. We are making my s'more cupcakes. Now I know it's kind of end of s'more season, but these are amazing. They're delicious, and you can of course enjoy them year round. So just making sure that everything is working, that we can get all of the comments and checking to make sure that I can follow along. So if you're watching, go ahead and let me know that you can hear me and see me okay. We're having a big storm up here today, so fingers crossed that the internet continues to work throughout the whole video. All right, James, welcome, welcome. Thank you. This is, yeah, not a great hair day for me, but I appreciate that. Jill, hi. Lauren, hello. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do, these cupcakes have 3 different components. They have the cupcake, of course, which is a graham cracker cupcake. They have the filling, which is a rich chocolate decadent ganache. And then they have the topping, which is a marshmallow frosting. So we're going to actually start by making the ganache. Because you want to make the ganache first because it needs a lot longer to cool down to room temperature. So ganache is made from 2 parts. You can hear me and see me. Yay, Mary, thank you so much. Ganache is made from 2 parts cream and chocolate, and that's it. Super, super simple. So I'm going to get the cream out. Of course, I forgot to get that out before we started, so it's in the fridge. And getting all the other fridge ingredients that we may need for the video. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to bring the cream to a simmer. So I am starting to heat up my cooktop, and there we go. So I'm going to add the cream to this saucepan, and we want to bring it just to a simmer. We don't want it to boil, just a simmer. And the reason for that is if you actually let the cream come to a boil, you'll have separated ganache. I know a lot of recipes call for cream to be boiled in the microwave, but honestly, I've never had good luck with that. Every time I've used the microwave and I've brought it to a rolling boil, my ganache does not work out, and it's always a little bit of that kind of grainy and separated ganache, which I don't love. But when I do, when I heat it over the stove and I make sure that it doesn't come to a boil, I have perfect luck. So for the chocolate that you want to use for ganache, I always use a high quality chocolate. You don't want to use chocolate chips, and the reason for that is chocolate chips actually have a coating on the outside of them that helps them hold their shape at high temperatures, so that when you cook cookies at like 350 or 375, it doesn't just melt away, it holds its shape. But of course that means it doesn't melt well, and you have to bring it to a pretty high temperature to get it nice and smooth and melted. And honestly, it always has a chippy flavor to me. So I like to use either chocolate bars or chocolate wafers for ganache. I also like to mix my chocolate. I like to do like 1 part semi-sweet, 1 part dark, maybe 1 part bittersweet, and you can also mix how expensive your chocolate is that way. Get some of the really good stuff, but also hide in some of like your cheaper wafers that way. Another reason to do that is if I used all 1 bar, like let's say I used all Baker's chocolate bar, then the ganache would taste exactly like that bar. It would taste just like Baker's. So by mixing up the chocolate and the brands, I like Ghirardelli's and Trader Joe's and Calibet and Peter's, I'm able to kind of create my own flavor that when people bite into it, they don't say, oh, this is Ghirardelli's, right? So those are my 2 tips for ganache. You also want to make sure that you don't have too big of chunks. These wafers I cut into quarters, and the reason for that is that once we add the warm cream to this, we're going to let it sit for 5 minutes. And during that 5 minutes that it's sitting, we want that warm cream to permeate into the chocolate and help that chocolate get all ready to be soft and stirred. If you start stirring right away, you'll actually cool the cream before you melt the chocolate, and you'll get chunks. If you use too big of chunks of chocolate, that cream will have a hard time permeating all the way through, and you'll still have chunks. Now there's a way to fix that, of course, once you have have stirred your chocolate up and you're sure it's all as, you know, as melty as you can get it, you can always put your bowl over a double broiler, over a pot with boiling water, and help melt the chunks the rest of the way in a nice low heat. The negative to that is, of course, it ends up heating the chocolate up a lot more, and then it takes a lot longer to cool. So it's better to just, in my opinion, to just chop it up at the beginning so that you don't have any huge chunks and that they can permeate all the way through. All right, so this is perfect right now. See how we're just getting some steam and we're just getting a little bit of bubbling at the edge. I'm going to turn the heat off. This is perfect, just where we want it. So you can see it doesn't take very long at all. So let's move this out of the way. Bring in our chocolate. I'm just going to pour this over the top. Now the other thing you want to consider when you're making ganache is the ratio of chocolate that you're using. So I'm going to give that a little jiggle. And one final tip that just kind of helps during this 5 minutes I have found is I'm going to take some plastic wrap and cover that, and that just kind of helps hold that heat in and helps that permeate. Now I'm going to put this off to the side for 5 minutes. So for ratio, if you're doing like a drip, I recommend, hold on, timer 5 minutes. I recommend a 1-to-1 ratio, 1 part chocolate to 1 part cream. If you're making a frosting, I recommend 2-to-1 ratio, 2 parts chocolate to 1 part cream. And if you're making truffles, I recommend a 3-to-1 ratio, 3 parts chocolate to 1 part cream. And of course, the more chocolate side of the ratio you get, the firmer the end result will be. Now for this, I didn't want it to be quite as firm as a frosting, but I didn't want it to be a drip. So I'm actually doing 1.5 parts chocolate to 1 part cream for this. All right. Now, while that is sitting for its 5 minutes, we're going to move on to the cupcake recipe and get started with that. So I have, we're going to do all the, well not all, but most of the wet ingredients here together. So I'm going to add the eggs. I'm going to add, oh, I need another spatula. Hold on. I'm also going to add yogurt or sour cream. You can decide which one you like better. I tend to use sour cream in my chocolate sour cream cake, you know, sour cream. But if you're looking for a slightly healthier alternative, then Greek yogurt, plain Greek yogurt is a great substitute for sour cream. So pick one or the other. They both bake beautifully. So I'm going to add the sour cream. And then I'm also going to add some mayo. And mayo is actually made of eggs and oil. So if you don't want to add mayo, you can just add more eggs and more oil. The reasoning behind the mayo is actually that it's just a little bit creamier, and I really like the end result of this. We're also going to add the vanilla here. And we're going to whisk this together until it's smooth. Amanda, sound is good. Hello from Texas. Welcome, welcome. Hi, Derek. Lauren, what color is that? You know what? My hair gal changes the color every single time I go to see her. But I know this is a new line that's supposed to be a really pure purple with no blues or reds that are stronger than the other. So I will ask her next time I see her. Fancy Family, hello from Sweden. Jeff Wild, why not add the chocolate to the cream in the pan? The pan would have more heat to help melt the chocolate. That would get too hot and you would break your ganache. Good question. Soria, hello. All right, so this is nice and smooth and ready to go. So I'm going to set it aside and we're going to bring in the mixer. As soon as I get the spatula clean again. Oh. All right. I'm going to bring in my mixer. Here we go. Put that in. Just give me a second to adjust the cameras so you can see everything. There we go. Okay, so for the dry ingredients, we're going to add flour, and sugar. Going to add some baking powder, and let's see, hold on, need to add a little bit more baking powder. I'm trying to adjust for high altitude while I'm doing this in my head. And baking soda and some cinnamon. Also, there we go. And finally, the ground graham cracker. Now I ground this graham cracker soup, oh my word. This graham cracker super fine in a food processor, so it's more like a flour, and this is what's going to give our graham cracker cupcakes the graham cracker flavor, of course. So add that, put the lid on so we don't have a big flour storm everywhere, and mix that together. Okay, now do you hear that timer going off in the background? That's actually for the ganache, so I'm going to bring that over really fast and take off the plastic wrap. The timer. Okay, and I'm going to stir this. Now, if you're still going to see chunks at the beginning, obviously give it some time. Don't give up until you've stirred it for a while. Because the cream is so liquidy, you're going to have to start stirring slowly at the beginning, but pretty soon it will all come together in this thick, beautiful ganache. I don't want this to spill over into my mixer, so I'm being a little bit more cautious than normal. All right, you can see it's starting to come together now. It doesn't take very long. All right. Now, as you can see, there's still a couple of chunks in here. If I keep stirring, most of those will go away. But like I said, it's not a big deal if it doesn't. Just throw it over a pot with a little bit of boiling water. It should take about 2 minutes, and it will get rid of all the rest of those chunks. But luckily, I made a batch of ganache this morning so that it would be cool enough to actually fill our cupcakes in today. So I'm not super worried about that. Oh, I have chocolate everywhere. And I'm going to wait for later. So our ganache is cooling off to the side, ready to fill our cupcakes. Now we're going to finish our cupcake batter. So all the dry ingredients are mixed together. And now we're going to add that egg mixture that we had. Hold on, I'm going to clean my spatula again. I have more than one spatula. I just only have one this color, and I kind of like to stick with the same color in videos. I know, it's probably really silly of me. Oh, you know what? Not that one. Sorry. Oops, wrong. I was skipping ahead of my recipe. We're actually going to add some softened butter now. Let's put the lid back on, and we are going to turn this back on. So like medium. And that's going to break that butter up in there and give it kind of a crummy texture. Not crummy as in bad, crummy as in kind of just a little bit thicker than it was before. All that butters makes little itty bitty teeny tiny crumb pieces in there. Okay, now we're going to add the egg mixture over the top. Scoop that all in. There we go. Beat that until it's just incorporated. We don't want any like chunks of dry in there. That is looking good. And now while I'm beating it on low, right now it's pretty thick. I'm going to beat it on low and add the milk. And a slow and steady stream. It actually goes from being a fairly thick batter to a fairly runny batter. All right. Let's see if you can see this texture of that. And this is all mixed up and it smells just like graham crackers. It smells amazing. You can see it's a fairly runny batter. And now it is ready to put inside our cupcake tins. Move this out of the way. Now this recipe makes, oops, just lost a bunch of liners and I was moving, makes 24 cupcakes. So we have the liners. And I like to use my big cookie scoop for cupcakes. I feel like it's the easiest way to cleanly and evenly fill cupcake liners. It's like the coolest. I don't even know why it's called the big cookie scoop. It should just be called the cupcake scoop. That's pretty much what I use it for, because who really makes cookies this big? I mean, I do, but not. That's kind of a special big cookie recipe, not an average cookie recipe. Like that. Anyway. So any questions about the cupcakes so far? I'm going to get these in the oven and then we are going to move on to the marshmallow frosting. Okay. Just take a second to fill everything. And I love this big huge tray. It's awesome for cooking 24 cupcakes at once. But I don't recommend doing 2 layers of this, like cooking 48 cupcakes at once, because it does fill the whole oven. So it would make it so you wouldn't be able to get heat very evenly around to both trays. So you could always do 2 trays of 12 on different racks, but then I find the bottom gets burned on one and the top gets overcooked on the other. So I like that I can put this on the perfect rack and get all 24 cupcakes cooked at once. Jill, you can come over as soon as I'm done with the live and have as many as you want. Almost. One more. Alright, I have just an itty bitty teeny tiny bit of batter left. So I can either just toss it, which is fine, or you can take like just a little spoon. Hold on, I'm going to use my spatula to get it all together. Alright, let's use a little spoon. As you can see, it's really not much batter left. And I'm just going to add like a little half a spoon on the top of all these. But that's kind of up to you on how full you like and want your cupcakes to be. You can totally just leave it as is. You could fill like a little pan with maybe 2 more cupcakes. It really won't make much. It also just kind of depends on the time that you have. If you're in a hurry, obviously I wouldn't bother. But I love this batter and I love these cupcakes, so we want to not waste them. Oh, wrong one. All right, who is ready for fall TV to begin? I admit I'm kind of a TV obsessed fanatic. I would love to hear what shows everybody is getting into. All right, I think that is all I can really do. I'm going to take this, get ready to bake. And of course, I've already baked a batch, so they're cooled and we are ready to go. Just clean off the counter and prep for the frosting. All right, so this marshmallow frosting is called Marshmallow Frosting or American Meringue or 7-minute frosting. There's a lot of different names for what it is. Essentially, we're doing a water bath. We're taking a pot of water and we are bringing it to a boil with a pan over the top. And this pan is going to then the boiling water, the steam is heating up this bowl without directly touching the bowl. If the water is touching the bowl, that will actually cause problems because that will heat this up too much. And that's not what we're looking for. So we're going to add the ingredients to the bowl, and then we're going to beat it until it gets ribbony, and then we're going to move it to another bowl that's cooler that will help it cool faster, and then we're going to continue to beat it in the other bowl until it is soft to thick peaks, and then it will be ready to put together our frosting. Now this recipe calls for egg whites. You can separate your own eggs and use egg whites that way, which is what I have done today. Or you can actually use the store-bought egg whites in a carton, which is what I typically do. I just didn't happen to have any today. If you are going to separate your eggs and do separate your egg yolks and egg whites, so don't forget to save the egg yolks. You can put them in a bowl, and remember to put plastic right down on top of them. Otherwise, even with plastic covering the bowl, the egg yolks will develop a skin and they really won't be good for very long. Egg whites last a lot longer separated than egg yolks do. I do have a ton of recipes for ice creams using egg yolks on my site. In fact, that's usually what I do. So I save I go through a lot more egg yolks than I go through egg whites typically, which is why I also buy egg whites by the carton. If I use a recipe that is an egg yolk recipe, like an ice cream or something like that, I'll save the egg whites to use for marshmallow frosting or macaroons. I like to make those a lot as well. So yeah, there's my little egg tip. Oh good, the oven is ready and I can put the cupcake mixer in. I'm just guessing on the cook time because I didn't actually double check. I'll do that now. And yes, I print off my own recipes. Okay. Oh, I can't read the comments because there's a little pop-up blocking them. Okay. Hello from Malaysia. Hi, Kat. Hello, Charlene. What kind of mixer is it? I tend to use a Bosch Universal Mixer. This is actually a new mixer from Nutrimil made in combination with Bosch. So it's a little bit weaker, but it's also a little bit more compact, and it doesn't have the big blender on the side. So it's great. It's like 650 watts, where the typical Bosch Universal is 800 watts. So I like them both. I use them both interchangeably. What are your tips for high altitude baking, especially cakes? That is a great question. Super Trooper, like your name. So I'm actually working on writing a whole blog post on them because they are numerous. And for every 1,000 feet that you go up, they actually should be tweaked a little bit. But I tend to just kind of go, I'm around 4,500 feet. So I tend to go with like the 4,000 feet. And honestly, if you're at 4,000 feet, you can get, or 3,000 to 5,000 feet, you can get away with the 4,000 feet directions. And that is this. For every cup of flour in your recipe, you want to add a tablespoon of flour. For every cup of sugar in your recipe, you want to take out a tablespoon of sugar. For every teaspoon of leavening agent, baking soda or baking powder, you want to take out 1/8 of a teaspoon. For every cup of liquid, I add a tablespoon of liquid, and that can be in like milk or egg, or it can be any of the liquids. You want to cook at 25 degrees hotter, so in this case 375 degrees, and then you want to cook for 5 minutes less for every 30 minutes. So that's the 4,000 feet altitude directions, which will work all the way from 3,000 up to 5,000-ish. Hope that helps. Margaret, you love the fall season. You watch 911. I do too. I have to say I'm a huge fan of, oh my word, my brain is going blank. Nathan Fillion from back in Firefly days. It's one of my Bosch mixers called, oh my word, my brain. You guys, I just got off of a retreat that I was in charge of, and it's a culmination of 6 months work, and I'm like having trouble coming down from it. But yeah, from back in Firefly days. Blue Bloods, I haven't seen that one. Good Doctor, nice. Halloween movie, Hocus Pocus. Yes, love Hocus Pocus. You watch Poldark. I have seen that one. Dancing with the Stars. I haven't watched that one in a long time, but I used to really enjoy that one. Okay, so this is not quite boiling yet, but it is nice and warm, so I feel it's okay to get started at this point because it's almost boiling. Like I can see the bubbles forming. They're just the small bubbles instead of the big ones. So I'm going to add, I'm actually going to add the sugar first, because if you add the egg whites directly to this warm pan, they could start to cook before you start getting your mixer out, so we don't want that. Next, I'm going to add the corn syrup. Get a spatula out for this. Oh, I can hear the water boiling now. I knew it was close. I like the Good Doctor because my kids all have Asperger's too, so it's fun to see what the good that they expect someone on the spectrum can do. Okay. And then the egg whites. And then we're going to start to beat. So this is going to get loud for a couple minutes. I want to say this first stage of beating over the boiling water until you get to nice, glossy, ribbony egg whites takes about 4 minutes. And you want to keep it moving. You don't want to stop because, again, you don't want this to turn into scrambled eggs. We want this to be frosting. To be nice and smooth and glorious. This is a meringue-based frosting, right? So we're making meringue essentially here. Really just when you change the ratio of the egg whites to sugar is where your meringue can change from light and airy to more rich and frosting-y. We're also, I don't really write this down in the recipe, but basically you're looking to hit a specific temperature. But once it turns white and it's thickened and it's ribbony, you know you've hit that temperature. So I don't usually bother getting my thermometer out. So it's going nice and fast. Metal bowls will help with this. The reason I like to use metal bowls is because you know that they don't have any grease the way like a plastic bowl does, and you don't have to worry about melting temperature at all. Because if there's any grease in the bowl at all, or any egg yolks at all, this will not work. So you have to be really careful as you're separating your egg whites. So this is looking good. We're just looking for it to get slightly thicker. So best hand mixers. Mine is starting to die. I've had it for, oh gosh, I've had it for like 15 years, and it's amazing. But it's just a little bit like the position number 1 doesn't work quite as well as it used to. So I'm looking to get it replaced, but they don't sell them anymore, so I'm looking for a used one. But they last forever, just like the Bosch machines. Okay, so see how nice and thick it is now? It's gotten a lot fluffier, it's gotten a lot fatter. So I'm going to pull this off. Ooh, watch out, it is hot. Don't do it one-handed. I'm going to pull this off the heat. Hot. Take this away. Move the rest of this stuff out of the way. Ooh, burn my finger a little. Okay. And again, I'm going to pour this into another bowl simply because this bowl is going to maintain its heat for a while, and I want the frosting to cool down because that will actually help it get thicker and turn into the frosting that we're looking for. You can leave it in the same bowl. It will just take a little bit longer of beating for it to come together properly. So this, like I said, one of the names for this frosting is 7-minute frosting. So it usually takes about 4 minutes over the heat and then another 3 minutes of beating on average. Now, obviously, altitude will affect that. The barometer will affect that. Since we're in the middle of a storm today, I knew it was going to be a little bit different for me today. Now we're going to add the vanilla to this now. You don't want to add the vanilla earlier because the heat actually ends up evaporating and you lose most of the flavor. So you want to add vanilla and other extracts and flavoring at the end. Are we still working? Because nobody's made any comments in a while, so I'm not sure if like I'm frozen or something. Let me know if you can still see me and hear me. Alright, so for those of you joining us, we're making marshmallow cupcakes. We've already made the graham cracker flavored cupcakes and they're in the oven. We've already made the ganache filling and it's coming to room temperature and cooling so we can fill the cupcake with it. And now we're just making the marshmallow frosting, which is also known as an American meringue or a 7-minute frosting. So it comes together really, really easily. Alright. Now we're looking for soft to stiff peaks. This is still going to be pretty soft, a little bit too soft to hold its shape with piping. So I'm going to keep going a little bit longer. But maybe another minute and then it should be done. You're still going. Thank you, Yvonne. I appreciate that. Peggy. It's a Bosch mixture, yes. And for those of you who are looking at getting a mixer, Alicia, you can see me and hear me. Thank you so much. I appreciate you letting me know. For those of you looking at getting a new mixer, I am going to be putting together a bundle with box that I'll offer on my site at a special price. So I will let you know when that is live. Alright, you can tell already that this is a lot thicker just by how, when you pull away. Oh, perfect. Did you see that? Look at that curl. Yum. Oh, you guys. Delicious. This is one of my favorite things to make. I just make this and eat it with graham crackers when I have too many egg whites left lying around. I also use this as an ice cream topping. As a cookie filling. So good. Alright, so now it is time for assembly. So I'm going to bring over the finished cupcakes that I made earlier today. Okay, so for coring the cupcake to make room for the ganache, you can spend money and get a cupcake corer, no problem. I just use a big frosting tip. I have multiple sizes, doesn't matter what the tip end is, it's just the whole size that we're looking for. All right, and I just, see about the size it is in the middle of the cupcake? You just push down while you're twisting, keep twisting and pull back up. It should leave that hollow. If the cupcake doesn't want to come out, just by tapping it, blowing on it will work. Then you can either toss these, or I tend to keep them in a little baggie and my kids eat them. It's one of their favorite things to do, so do that again. Twist and press down and then pull up. There you go. And then blow it out. So I'm going to do this. Oop. Now depending on how far down you go with when you press, right? You don't want to go too far down, right? You're not trying to pour it all the way down to the bottom of the cupcake. We're really just trying to go, you know, a third to halfway down. See, that's probably about a third of the way down, about down to there. And sometimes it's a little bit deeper. This one's a little bit deeper. It's not an exact science, but it also wouldn't be any more precise using a cupcake corer than using the tip. And this I'm using something I've already paid for, so I'm not spending any extra money. All right. I have this little pile of cupcake cores over here. Now there are some, oops, I lost my microphone. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. That's not great. There are some recipes that after you fill it, they want you to put the little cupcake core back on top. But honestly, I tend to not do that because, like, then how much filling can you really have in here? I just pile it on with frosting. But that's a personal choice. If you want to put the top back on, you totally can. I don't find that it's necessary. So, and yes, I will wash this tip after having my mouth all over it, for those of you who are curious. Anyway, so that's just a personal preference. I guess it depends on how thick your frosting is going to be. But this is such a thick filling that I don't worry about, like, yeah, I don't worry about it. Maybe if the filling was loose, like if I was making piñata cupcakes, but if I was making piñata cupcakes, I'd probably also want to go down a little bit lower to make more room. Okay. You can't wait. You'd love to get the Bosch products. They are awesome. I have been a Bosch user since I was born. My mom had one that she got for when she got married. So I grew up using the Bosch mixer. And then my sisters and I all bought our own Bosches. I now own 3. And I have 4 bowls and so many accessories. It's not even funny. The one accessory, there's 2 of the accessories I don't have. And that is the pasta squeezer and the sausage maker squeezer thing. I don't have either of those. But I should get them, obviously. I've actually been wanting to make my own licorice. My dad's obsessed with licorice. And he challenged me to see if I could make my own licorice. And I thought the pasta extruder would actually be good for that. I just haven't gotten around to it. Okay, so I have the finished ganache that I made earlier already in a piping bag with a tip, because that'll make filling these a lot easier and cleaner. I'm going to bring this down so you guys can see everything a little bit better. I'm like, what? Sorry, my camera is stuck on all the cords that I have over here. Okay. Okay, there we go. Yes, you could save the discards for cake pops. I just don't make those very often. Okay, trying to find where I am on the screen. So I just take my soft ganache and just fill in like little Hershey Kiss, and the frosting is just gonna cover that up. Now you can see why I like this softer ganache. When I bite into these cupcakes, it's still gonna be nice and soft. If I had done a 2-to-1 ratio, it would still pipe into these spots. It would just be a much thicker filling. And I want it to when I bite into it, I want it to be decadent and rich and a little oozy. So that's why I do the 1.5-to-1 ratio in the ganache. Ooh, the newest cupcakes are done. Look. Perfect. I have just like an itty bitty teeny tiny bit of ganache left. Let's check and see if these are done. Okay. These look amazing and they smell amazing. Trying to get a grip. All right. So here's this fresh batch. And how you can tell it's done is if you press down and it bounces right back, it doesn't leave an indent. That's how you know your baked goods are done. So I'm going to put, this off to the side. Heavy. And now we're going to frost these. So you use any frosting tip that you want for the marshmallow frosting. I am going with, I don't know if I can read it, Ateco 849. It's a closed French tip. So French means instead of having like 5 openings, it has all these little itty bitty teeth around it, and closed means it kind of comes in versus straight. So yeah. To fill a piping bag, you want to fold the top of your bag down, kind of give it a little skirt. And what that's going to do is you can hold your hand in cup shape and slide the bag over it. And this protects your hand from getting dirty. It gives you something to hold on to as you push stuff into it. Also, it keeps the edges of the bag from getting dirty. So when you fold the bag back up, we will have that. Yes, all the recipes are on the blog. If you're watching on YouTube, the recipes are in the description box. If you're watching on Facebook, there's a link to the recipe right there in the description. So you want to make sure when you're filling the piping bag, I always use my thumb and I press against my thumb, and what that's doing is getting rid of any air bubbles as I add like the next little bit. All right, because you don't want to all of a sudden pop a big air bubble. So again, now I can fold this up and the top of my bag is nice and clean and it makes it easier for squeezing. The other thing you want to do with the piping bag is I hold it between my thumb and my hand and I twist it and I pinch the twist. And what that does is that keeps, as I squeeze now, it's going to keep the frosting going in all one direction instead of going in both directions, so you don't waste any of your squeeze on material going both ways. And I just kind of wrap the kiss around like that. Now the stiffer the peaks, obviously you won't get that cute little curl at the top if your peaks are too stiff, but if your frosting is too soft, it also won't hold those ridges. So I'd rather be on the stiff side than on the soft side. And I just go around once and then come back to the center. And then I refill my bag as I need it. Yes, Yvonne, I answered that. Jeff, what does the ganache made today look like right now? Because I was in a hurry making the live, I just put it off to the side. It's still a little chunky. It needed to be heated a little bit more, but I didn't take the time to do that during the live. So it wouldn't quite be ready yet, but it would be close if you don't have to reheat it. If you do have to reheat it, like I'm going to have to do because of the chunks, it's going to take a lot longer to cool down. Does that answer your question? How do you store leftover meringue frosting? I don't. This is one of those frosting that you make and use fresh. You can put it in Tupperware and keep it in the fridge, but it won't ever be as stiff and as firm as it was the first time. So while it will be okay to like scoop onto ice cream like marshmallow fluff, it's not going to be okay for frosting again later. This is one of those frostings that you make and use fresh, for sure. Hello from Australia. I can see and hear you. Hello, welcome, welcome. All right, so depending on how much frosting you add to each cupcake, there should be just enough for these 24. If you like to go a little bit more hi-hat with your cupcakes, if you like to go a little bit more frosting, then you might want to make a slightly larger batch. But for this amount of frosting, this should be good. Almost done. Finishing up the last couple. You also don't want to make the meringues ahead of time, even the day of, because it won't last. You want to make it, beat it, and frost it. And then it will, because of the air around these cupcakes, it will set. It will always be a little sticky, but it will set. It won't like dissolve and collapse on top of the cupcakes. The flavor of the cupcakes. These are graham cracker cupcakes with chocolate ganache filling and marshmallow frosting. Oh no, I might be a little short on the frosting side. I thought I had it just right. Went a little overboard on some of these, I guess. Oh, little weenie frosting on that one. The very last one. Now this frosting is really, really sticky, so I'm gonna wash my hands real fast. Okay. And then for the final aspect of these cupcakes is the torch. Now I went to get my torch out today and I realized it's basically empty, so we are going to attempt to get one torched cupcake out of this. Fingers crossed. All right, I'm gonna get one of my cute little cupcake things to put it on so I don't interfere with all the rest. All right, we'll see. Oh, I had enough. So you can see how it makes the frosting kind of grow. It also kind of helps set the frosting so it's not, so I can touch it without it being super tacky. Yay! Oh, let's see if we can get a couple more before my butane totally runs out. I ordered more. It's coming from Amazon because I torch a lot of food. That probably doesn't sound great. I love watching the marshmallow grow as the torch hits it. Ooh. So we can get out of this. How do I store them? I have a carrying case that holds 3 dozen cupcakes and gives enough space between the layers that the frosting doesn't touch and get ruined. So that's what I use. Oh, I did not think I'd get this many out of this. They're so pretty. You need to buy a torch. Is there a brand I recommend? No, honestly, I haven't found one that's amazing. They're all pretty much the same. I am looking for a bigger one. This is a fairly small one. I do have an Amazon store. If you go to amazon.com/store/Ashlee Marie Cakes, or if you go to my website and just click shop in the top right corner, it'll take you to my Amazon store, and I do have a link to one that is a good one. I mean, there's definitely bad ones out there, but most of them are just fine and good. Oh my gosh, you guys have been staring at me. I'm so sorry. I thought that you guys were looking at me torching these. Oh, Candace, thanks for letting me know. I'm looking at it on the screen going, oh, it looks so good. You guys can't even see. Oh, good thing my torch isn't out, huh? Look how good they look. Oh, man, could I be any dorkier? I don't know. So now you can see what I was talking about. And you can, of course, over torch them or under torch them. Just be careful not to catch fire to the paper. Because, yeah. I mean, I think you can all understand what would be bad about that. Now, the very tip of the marshmallow tends to catch on fire if you're not careful, so I tend to hit the sides and then just do the top last. Woohoo! And this is one of the reasons that I use a star tip. So I get these great ridges. You could just use a round tip and just make a blob of marshmallow on the top, but I love what the torch does to the ridges. I just think it's so pretty. Man, you guys, I'm so sorry. You're just staring at me, looking down, working. I mean, I'm cute and all, but it's not quite the same thing. All right, so I think we have a good number done. I think you can, this is the one that I went overboard on. This one has the most frosting, and that's why that last one has less frosting. I think this one will be mine. You can always go for more frosting. So good, so pretty, love the ridges. Okay, I'm going to eat this now because I can. All right. Dum dum dum. All right. Oh, it's still warm. The torch is still warm. I didn't bite deep enough to get the ganache. I'm gonna have to take another bite. Oh, so good. It is amazing how that ground graham cracker really gives these graham cracker cupcakes that graham cracker taste, along with that little bit of cinnamon. The marshmallow frosting stays nice and soft and ooey and gooey, and that ganache inside is also just beautifully soft as well. I like that it's not super thick or super hard. Maybe I'll just leave that like, that's gonna fall over. All right, leave that there. So pretty. Anyway, that is it. Those are the s'more cupcakes. Super light and fluffy cupcake, that rich, soft ganache on the inside, and then that ooey gooey, soft marshmallow frosting on the top. It's just amazing. The tip that I use for the frosting, it's a large French tip. It's, hold on, a Teco, $8.49. I should put that in the recipe. I will add that. So yeah, that's it. Next week I was thinking about doing donuts. Would you guys prefer to just see plain yeast donuts and how they're made? either baked or fried, or would you like to go to a more extreme and do like apple pie filled donuts with a cinnamon glaze? If we do traditional donuts, I'll show you all of the glazes that I like. I dip them in cinnamon and sugar after frying them. I like to dip them in maple glaze, vanilla glaze, and chocolate glaze. Anyway, so let me know in the comments what you'd like to see live for next week. We're hitting into the fall, which is the best time of year. We're hitting all of the comfort foods, the soups, the breads, the decadent everything, cookies, and you could be rich and rich food. My favorite time of year. And it's not too hot to have my oven on all day, so I'm doing a lot of baking now. So thanks again for watching. I will see you live next Tuesday. I will stay on for just a couple minutes and answer any last minute questions that there are. But for those of you leaving, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Filled, yes they are. Thank you. You are welcome, Rhonda. Thanks for sharing your recipes. You're so welcome, Patricia. What's the star tip? I answered that one. Ideal for fall parties for sure. I love these cupcakes so much. And they're seriously, I mean, as you can see, they're just so easy to make. These look amazing. Thank you so much, Kim. Candace, thanks for letting me know that you couldn't see them. You love the smell when you torch meringue. Yes, for sure. All right, I think could you use the vanilla wafers instead of graham crackers? You could. You totally can use any crumbs you want. Obviously, it will change the flavor. I wanted to go for that really authentic graham cracker flavor, although I don't necessarily like graham crackers other than s'mores. They're just such a tradition, such a classic, that's what I use. But yes, you can. Traditional donuts, thanks for sharing. Have a wonderful evening. Thanks, Margaret. Thanks for watching again. It's always good to see you. All right, I think that's it. I think I have answered all the questions. So thank you again for joining us for some more cupcakes, and I will see you next week.